So, planning a wedding was the next project. I had never planned a wedding. I had even attended very few weddings. My mother had never planned a wedding, so we were just trying to think what it was we needed. And I did not have my father was just starting a new job, and so I felt that finances were real tight with my parents. So I didn't even ask to have wedding pictures taken, so we had none. I didn't ask for a beautiful wedding gown, so I borrowed one. I did have 3 attendants who all wore their prom dresses. Attendant was my cousin Ruth Ann, and a friend of Dad's best man was Virginia, and then I had who else did I have?
You had Marjorie Lobbs,
Oh
Virginia.
yes, my roommate from Columbia Academy was my other attendant. Judy was our flower girl,
Yeah.
and Carol and Leon were our candle lighters. We didn't have flowers from the florist, but a good friend, put together flowers for us, and it actually was quite lovely. But Lyle ordered for me a wedding bouquet that had a big purple orchid in the center that was detachable to use as a corsage for our wedding trip, and then it had white carnations around it. It was very nice. And so we were married. We were driving my parents' car because we didn't have one, and some of our jolly good friends had put rocks in the hubcaps. So as we were driving to where the reception was going to be,
Clang, 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 clang.
and I can remember saying, "We're married. We're actually married, aren't we?" And then we got up to the reception place and had the reception. And then we went to a motel in Oregon City.
Yeah.
For our
Above the
first
falls in Oregon City.
wedding night together.
Then we traded her folks' car for my folks' car, and we sent her folks' car back down to St. Helens and took my folks' car on our wedding trip. And we went down to the coast, down the coast, as far as the Trees of Mystery, and then we come back up, went through
Crater Lake.
went through Medford. Remember we went to the Vortex, which was a house that was built so crooked that it looked like things were going uphill when they were really going downhill, and people still swear that they're going uphill. Anyway, it was so hot, it was 110 that day in Medford. And then we were glad when we got out of the valley and we were headed for Crater Lake, and we stayed over the night in Crater Lake. And then from there on we went up to Mount Hood area, stayed overnight up in there, and then went on home.
But actually we were gone for a week. We had a week.
Yeah, we were gone for a full week.
And we began our life in a small mobile home.
And we were able to buy a trailer that someone had. It was 19 feet long and 8 foot wide. And a year later or so, I built an addition onto it, which was a fruit room and
A bathroom.
also a bathroom. We sunk a 50-gallon barrel out for the septic tank, and used that, and it worked fine. Then finally we
How long did you stay in that place?
we were there a year and a half, and then one day we read in the paper that there was a house in White Salmon that was an old estate, and we could put bids in on it. Well, I'm sure it was the Lord's will. We went down, put the bid in, the lowest one we could get that they would take, and a few days later, a week or so later, they called us up, said, "Come on down with the money. We have you have got the bid." And we thought, man, where are we going to get the money? And we heard of somebody up named Les Bonnie up in Goldendale, Washington, and he sometimes lent out money. So we contacted him, and he come on down, and I had to work that day, so he picked up Fern at the house at where we were staying, and took her down to the bank, and she went into the bank, and he says, I'll stay out here and I'll wait till you come out. So she was in there for a while and came out, and he said, "You couldn't get the money, could you?" And she said, "Well, yeah, they gave me the money." So he said, "Okay, well, let's go make out the papers then."
That was the down payment.
That was the
Oh,
down
okay.
payment, which was probably $20.
Oh,
No, it was more than that.
50, maybe 50.
Probably
But-
150.
Well, the whole house cost $3,500.
wow.
So we know the down payment wouldn't be more than 50. Anyway, so we had a house. And a few months later, I was sitting on the porch. Les Bonnie had stopped by to see how we were doing. He and I were sitting on the porch in a couple rocking chairs. And he said, he says, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, we're doing good. We're doing all right." And he said, he says, "Let me tell you something." He says, "You know how I make my money?" He says, "I make my money by buying houses just like this." And he said, "I had my eye on this house. After you called me, I didn't see it in the paper. For some reason, I didn't see it in the paper." And he says, "I had my eyes on this when you called me, and I remember what I asked you when you come out of the bank? You didn't get the money, did you?" He says, "I was hoping you didn't get the money." But he says, "Being you were just kids starting out," he said, "I decided I would just go ahead and give you the money." So
Wow.
that's how we got the money, and I think that was the Lord's doing. He was impressing upon him to let us have that house. Anyway, a month or so later, I was getting a haircut downtown, and the barber says, "Where do you live?" Because that's the first time I've been in there. And I said, "Well, up on Wisconsin Street." And he says, "Oh," he says, "You know, there was a house up there for sale several months back." He said, I said, "Yeah, we bought that house." He said, "Oh," he says, "Would you mind if I'd ask you what you paid for that?" I said, "No." He said, we bid the lowest we could on that, and no one else bid against us, so we got it." He said, "Oh no," he says, "I thought that would go for a lot more than that, so I didn't even bid on it."
Wow.
So there you go. Lord was with us still. And you know, the Lord's been with us all through our life. I could tell you story after story that where the Lord is I'm sure, led out, and he's still doing that for us.
Lyle, why don't you go get a picture of the house so he can see what it looks like when we bought it?
Well, why don't you go take a picture of that house up there on top of the curio?
Okay, where is it at?
Clear up on
Right
top
up there
of
on
the,
top of that. On the cabinet there.
Okay,
it was an estate from 1900.
right up here.
1910, I think it was.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Is this the actual house?
Yes.
Look at that. And is that a photograph or a sketch? I can't even
That's
tell.
a photograph.
It's an old photograph.
Who's the signature? Or is that just a weed?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Huh. There it is, the house white salmon. Now, what year would you have purchased this house?
In 52, 53,
52,
52.
yeah.
The same year you got married.
No, 51 we got married.
Oh.
Actually, yeah, it was just barely in 52 because David was born while we were there.
In
Okay.
53.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, down next to the curio cabin
Mm-hmm.
is a picture of us remodeling it,
Mm-hmm.
the house, and then what it looked like when we finished it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know if that house still exists?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So it hasn't been raised.
No, it's still there.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of work done on it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the address?
Wisconsin Street is all I know.
Wisconsin
I
Street.
don't know what the number was.
I've got an idea to drive out there and get some footage.
Well, yeah, we could. You go up the main street in town. Well, there's two main streets on either side of that. You could go up the one on the far, or you could go up the one right.
Lyle,
The
it
first
doesn't
one you-
give him any, it doesn't
The
help.
first
him.
one you come to, and you go up there, and there'll be a little zigzag in that.
Mm-hmm.
The next street is Wisconsin Street,
Okay.
and you turn to the left, and it's the second house in.
Mm.
Third house in. There's one on the corner, then there's a big house, and it's the third house.
Okay, I was thinking the big house was on the corner, but
No,
maybe
it's not.
that's the third house in then.
Lyle,
There used to be an alley between. They've done away with that alley.
it doesn't do any good to give people that kind of directions. People don't remember the directions.
Oh no, he's got a good mind. He'll remember all
No,
that
he
zigzag.
won't either.
That zigzag in that street. Yep, you bet.
We'll see.
But I think it would be helpful to look on the side of the curio, down on the floor,
Mhm.
is the picture of what the house looked like when we were remodeling it.
The side of the
On
what?
this side of the curio cabin.
Oh, okay. Just down here, huh?
On the floor.
Okay. I see it.
There's a picture frame there.
Yep. Is it inside that?
You can see what it looked like while we were remodeling it. No, the other side.
Oh,
Then you can see what it looked like when we finished remodeling it.
let's get it into the light here. Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's it. Is that before or after the remodel?
That's before the remodel. I mean, that's we were.
Oh,
in
and
the
then the other
process.
side is after the
Yeah.
remodel? Okay. Let's see the other side then. Uh-huh, yeah. There you go.
And it was actually